Hey guys, Kevin, it's me, another movie review for guys. Now, this movie we're reviewing, I really didn't know how this movie was going to be. As you guys know, for my classic movie reviews, I reviewed the first four movies from M Night Shyamalan. I want to see those first four films, see why he is so loved as a director, because I hadn't seen a single one of his movies except for, like, The Last Airbender, and I obviously knew that is a very bad introduction to start from him. Now, reason I did that is because of this movie, The Visit, that I just watched. I will be reviewing for you guys. Of course, that's why I reviewed all four of those films. However, the problem that I was having with The Visit is that I couldn't really tell if this movie was going to be good or not. There were some things that looked like, oh, that's M. Night back to his roots, but then there were some things that this made it just look like a generic found footage movie. And after watching it, I'm happy to say that The Visit is actually not a horror movie at all. I honestly would not consider this a horror movie. What it is a comedy with a surprising amount of emotional depth, and also is definitely the return from Night Shyamalan, and also is one of the most surprising movies of the year by far. I basically love The Visit. I honestly did. I really only have like a few problems with it, but other than that, I really love this movie, I have to say, and I think it's one of the biggest surprises of this year by far. So, the plot to this movie, you guys know the plot. It's really simple. There's really not too much to say about the plot. Basically, there are these two kids, who, you got Rebecca and you have Tyler. Rebecca is obsessed with film. She wants to be a filmmaker. She wants to document, basically, she wants to make a documentary, and basically her and her brother Tyler are going for a week-long vacation with their grandparents because their mother, is going on a cruise with her new boyfriend, and basically, while she goes on that, she sends them to their grandparents, and Rebecca, the main character, wants to document the events of, what happens when they see your grandparents, because they've never seen them before. However, as time starts to go on, they start to realize that there's something weird going on with their grandparents. They aren't acting right, and they're determined to figure out what's going on, and that's basically the plot of the movie. And I think it's a really great plot. You can do a lot with it. And something I will say right away is that this movie feels very, very, very small, but it's definitely small in a way that's good. Like, he didn't try to do too much. I'll get into this with M. Night Shyamalan, but first let's get to the acting in this movie. Something that M. Night Shyamalan did that I really admire is that he casted almost all unknown actors. The only well-known actor in this movie is Catherine Hahn, and we will get into her. But for the most part, most of these actors, you haven't really heard of them before. And they all do a great job. Olivia de Jongi as Rebecca is fantastic in this movie. And something she does perfectly is make this feel like a found footage movie. Now, this is not a found footage movie. This is more of a student film, and that's because Rebecca, of course, is documenting this, and you really admire her character. She's very smart, she's very well calculated, she knows a lot about film, but she's also a very fun character, and I really love that about her performance. She really did a great job in the movie making this character seem real, making her seem human, and that's something I thought was really, really great that Rebecca did. But something else I really loved about her is that she has a lot of emotion going through her as well. She gives some really emotional scenes in this movie that honestly might be some of the best well-acted scenes I've seen all year. I mean, there's a scene where she has to break down, and it's this crazy scene. She has to break down, and she has to get really upset, and she pulled it off perfectly, and especially a child actress that's not as well known. She did a very good job, and I thought she was excellent in this movie. But something else I loved about Rebecca as a character is the way she would kind of play with the film she's making. I mean, there were points in this movie where she dramatizes certain events, or where she'll make things seem bigger than they seem, kind of to hook the audience in what's going on. And that was a really cool idea that she did, and I definitely really liked that. And I thought Rebecca as a character was definitely really great, and I definitely really loved her character. Ed Oxenbould, though, as Tyler. This kid is awesome, okay? I don't know where he's come from, but this kid is gonna go far, because he is gives some of the funniest, one of the funniest performances I have seen all year. His character, Tyler, is so funny. I was surprised by how funny his character was. Basically, his character is an aspiring rapper, and he thinks of this, he makes YouTube videos, and he thinks of this movie as, that Rebecca's making, as a way for him to break out into the rapping business. So, randomly, Rebecca will have a conversation with Tyler, and he'll just go off into a rap. And this might sound annoying, but that's the point. He's supposed to be the annoying little shit of a brother, but you also really love this kid because he's actually really good at what he does. He's very good at just coming up with raps here and there. It's some of the best parts of the movie. Some of my favorite parts of the movie is just when he would just start rapping for no reason, and there's so many parts where this happens, but it never feels out of place. It feels like it belongs there. He brought some very good comedic humor to the movie, and also the chemistry between these two, they really feel like brother and sister, and you also feel that they're broken, though, because a lot's happened to them in their lives that I don't want to spoil, but a lot's happened to them, and you really do feel that between them. They did a very good job with that and definitely pulled it off very well. Kathryn Hahn was incredible in this movie. I found her to be probably the best character of the movie as Paula Jameson because she has been through shit as a mother and as just a person in general. I mean, you see that she really did not have the greatest relationship with her mother and father, their grandparents, or with her ex-husband. She had a lot of problems with them, and you really see that emotional trauma she's going through. But the thing I love about her character is that she never really shows it. It seems as if she doesn't really matter to her, and that's something that I thought she did very, very well. It was a very realistic performance as someone that kind of wants to put all that aside and doesn't really want to face the emotional trauma that they're going through, and she did a very good job. She's not in the movie that much, but she's just as essential as the two kids and the grandparents are, and she did a very good job, and especially toward the end of the movie, almost had me in tears, to be honest with you guys. She was incredible. Now, Deanna Dunnigan as Doris is fantastic in this movie as the grandmother Doris. The thing I loved about Doris as a character, and John as well, both of them, is that they're very, very creepy, but they're also kind of like darkly funny. I mean, yeah, it's weird what they're doing. They don't portray this as necessarily a horror situation. The way they portray this is more of just weird. Someone that feels weird, someone that feels like they have problems. And that's a way it probably would be handled if this were to happen. I mean, just imagine you go to your grandparents' house you've never seen before, they start acting like psychopaths. Obviously, you want to know what's going on. And plus, it kind of plays around the idea of certain rules that people have. I mean, why do they have these rules? And that's something that they really start to think about. They both did a very good job with. And there were some scenes where they were quite creepy and kind of had me feeling uneasy. Definitely that was something that was very good, and I definitely really loved it about the movie. And the only other person I'll talk about in terms of acting are the cameos in this movie. Now, they're not cameos that are like celebrities, but they did this really cool gag where they would have random people show up, like strangers and just people that would show up, and they'd start going on a tirade about acting performances that they've done to make themselves look good for the camera. And this was a very funny little recurring gag that they would do throughout the movie that I personally really enjoyed and really showed that you're not supposed to take this movie as seriously as you think you are. And that's something that they did very well, and I definitely really enjoyed that. And overall, all the acting I thought was great. I thought everyone did a great job, and there really is not a bad performance in the bunch. Now, directing by M Night Shyamalan, he did a fantastic job directing this movie. I don't know if you guys know this, but he actually made two cuts of this film. One was a comedy and one was a horror movie. What he did was he meshed the two together, and I think that was a very smart idea of him to do because the movie, like I said, I wouldn't even call it a horror movie. I call it more of a psychological thriller or even a dramedy. I'd call it, honestly, a dramedy. That probably is what I'd call it because I don't really think it's a horror movie. But I thought it was a really cool idea what he did because you always feel like there's just something off throughout this entire movie, and you don't know what it is, but he doesn't portray it as scary. He portrays it as just weird or funny looking. He doesn't portray this as something, and it really gets into, a kid's head. I mean, when you think of, like, investigating something, you don't always think, oh, that's going to be scary. You don't always think that. You kind of investigate something more and try to find out clues about it and have fun with it. And they kind of have fun. That's what happens in this movie. They have fun with what they're doing. They're not scared. They're more, like, interested in what's going on. It's the most important thing to them. And they did a very good job with that. I definitely really enjoyed that. And it was very, very well handled. This is probably the most realistic portrayal I have seen of a found footage movie because, like I said, it's more of a student film, and they did that very, very well with this movie in terms of the directing and also the writing. The writing, now M. Night Shyamalan pretty much did everything in this movie. He did the directing, he did the writing, which was great. He really did a great job doing everything because if you guys don't know, there are rumors in After Earth that he actually didn't write that film, that Will Smith basically wrote most of it, and M. Night Shyamalan kind of took a back seat. What I love with this movie is that he pretty much did everything. He didn't do the cinematography, but he did the writing, he did the directing, so he pretty much did all the essential stuff he needed to do, and I thought his writing was very, very good to this movie, definitely. Like I said, something I really loved about, seeing the student film is that it felt basically just like a student film the whole time. There were some parts here and there that didn't feel like a student film, but for the most part, it worked very, very well, and it felt as real as possible. The movie never went off the rails, in my opinion. Like, it never went too full-on crazy. It knew that when it needs to be restrained, it's a very, like, subdued film. Like, it always feels like, there should be more to it, but there's not, and that's something I thought was really, really good, is how realistic it's supposed to be. One of the most important things a movie like this is supposed to do is to make it seem realistic. So many found footage movies forget that nowadays. They think, oh, let's introduce the ghost thing, but it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't seem real. This feels real. This feels like an actual story. Even the twist, which I will get into, there is a twist in this film. I'm pretty sure you guys know that because you've heard in other reviews. But there is a twist in this film, and it feels realistic. It works very, very well, and I definitely really appreciate that. The cinematography of this film isn't perfect. It's not M. Night Shyamalan's best. That's something that was very good. It feels like a student film. There are many times when it's dark and it's hard to see things, or the camera angles aren't the best. But this character, Rebecca, wants to make this look as impressive as possible. There are parts of the movie where she will just randomly cut to things just to keep us invested, and it was something that I thought was very interesting and definitely very well handled. And in many times, it didn't feel like there was cinematography in this movie. It felt like Olivia de Jonge was actually holding the camera the entire movie. It very much seemed that way to me, and I don't know if that's true, but it very much seemed that way. And they did a very good job with kind of not breaking the illusion there. That was something that was very good, and even with the opening credits, it still felt like a student film. That's something that was also very good. I can't really talk about a score to this movie because there really isn't one. There's a score when they play music. That's something else the movie didn't understand. When you have a movie that's supposed to be found footage, you should not have music in the background. This movie doesn't. It has when they play music, there's music, but other than that, there's really no music at all, and I thought that was definitely something that was very well handled. The editing as well was perfect. I was into the movie the whole time, and also, the movie is quite slow-paced. It takes, I'd say, an hour into the film, and the movie's only 94 minutes, an hour in the film to fully understand what's going on. The entire first hour of this movie is just little pieces of information and little events that happen here and there leading up to the big reveal that I thought was very, very well handled. If I had to have a complaint with this movie, and it's really not much of a complaint at all, is that there were some scenes where I wasn't sure if we were supposed to feel sad or if it was supposed to be funny, and that's because of the differences between the two characters. Rebecca's a lot more of a serious character while Tyler's a lot funnier, and there were times where I couldn't really tell if we were supposed to laugh or if we were supposed to feel empathy for them. There were points where I understood this is supposed to be very sad, but there were some points where it felt like, oh, was that supposed to be funny? I couldn't really tell what was going on there, but I kind of took it as, I kind of took it as just that's how their personalities are. Tyler kind of says things in a way where everything kind of sounds funny even when it's not. And even when he's telling a sad story, he makes it sound funny because that's kind of just how he is. It's kind of just, maybe he does it to humor himself, and I thought that was definitely very interesting, and I really love that. I also really love the emotion in this movie. Like I said, this movie is some very raw emotion that I didn't see coming and was very well handled. M. Night Shyamalan always does this in every single one of his movies, and this might be this might be one of his best emotionally effective movies. I mean, I think anyone can really relate to the situation that they're going through in this movie. Well, at least someone who is going through something similar to what the family's going through, and I thought that was definitely very well done. Now, the twist in the movie, I do want to talk about the twist, so if you guys have not seen the visit, don't watch the rest of this review. I am going to spoil the twist for you guys, and I do want to talk about it because I want to examine it a little bit more. So yeah, let's get into it. So at first, the twist I wasn't a fan of. I will say that. When they first said what the twist was, I'm like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like when she said, "Oh, those aren't your parents," those aren't your grandparents. I was like, that's kind of stupid. But then when we realized why, when you really sit down and think about it, it works perfectly. The reason that this happened is, of course, because of the fact that Paula left her parents. She didn't want to talk to them anymore. She hasn't talked to them in years, that she let this happen to them. And you really see that pain that she's going through. The second that she realizes, oh shit, these are not actually my parents, that is when the movie, I thought, got a lot more emotionally affecting, and that's something I thought was very well handled. And the final scene, the chase, the scene with, like, Yahtzee and things like that, I didn't necessarily find scary. I found it more thrilling, and more of just, like, this is what it's led up to, and it just felt more of, like, a climax and less of a horror movie, and that's something that I thought was very well handled, and I definitely really enjoyed that, and I think just overall, I just thought it was very good seeing Paula go through that emotional trauma, and then the ending of the movie where she tells Rebecca not to hold back anger over Robert, because obviously they're upset at what their dad did to them. They're upset that he just left them, and you can see that emotional trauma that they're going through, especially in the scene where Rebecca talks to, Doris and tries to tell her, look, this is what's happened to us, and Doris doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. That's when you start to realize something's going on, and then it all really does make sense, because anytime they would try to talk about the past, John and Doris wouldn't know what the hell they were talking about, and it completely makes sense here. Now, I was thinking they were going to do some twists, and at first when they did a twist, I will admit to you guys, I didn't feel it was needed, but then at the end, it was perfect because Paula let it happen. That's really what it's trying to say, is that Paula let this happen, she let it get this bad, and that is why things turned out as bad as they did. So overall, guys, I love The Visit. I think The Visit is a great movie. I think it definitely is a return for M Night Shyamalan. He definitely is back to those fantastic first 4 films. He did definitely add this to those first, 3 films that he did. It's his best film since Signs, and I'm going to give The Visit a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. It is a great movie. I really love The Visit, and it is definitely a step in the right direction for M Night Shyamalan. But that's basically my review of The Visit. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys saw this movie. You have seen it. I absolutely love this movie. I definitely recommend you guys check it out. But don't go into it thinking it's a horror movie. It's really not a horror movie. It is a dramedy about a complex family and an event that's happened to them, and that really is what I think it's trying to be about. And it also really is an homage to, I think, M. Night's first 3 films. His first 3 films always had more emotional subtext to it. Sure, they had, creepy things here and there, but like The Sixth Sense, of course, had emotional context to it. Unbreakable had something emotional about it. The Visit is very much like that. It gets back what those films had. It shows why those films are so great, and you can just add this to the list of fantastic M. Night Shyamalan films. But that's basically my review of The Visit. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys saw this movie. You have seen it. I definitely really love this movie. It's probably one of the best movies of the year, definitely. I don't know if it's going to be like my top 10 or anything, but out of the movies I've seen, especially in a year that's been very mediocre, and while this film could have been very mediocre, it actually turned out very, very well. A lot better than I thought it was going to be. Honestly, even when I was hearing the reviews, I didn't know if the movie was going to be that good, and I'm happy to hear that it was very good, and that's mainly because of how well done I think the twist was, and just how well crafted of a movie it was. It's great that it turned out as well as it did, but that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed them. If you guys saw this movie, you have seen it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Doctor Who, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.